Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wrestling Republic podcast. I am, as per usual, here joined today by Karl Kinahan, the man who was trained by Finn Balor, pinned Becky Lynch, and shared a pint with Keith Lee. How are you today, Karl?
Very good, man. I think I need a few more accolades next week, so I'll think of something.
And we'll also join you for the first time in a month. He's been away on absence as of late, and it's the Kota Koon, or as you guys know him, King Kota. How are you, Kota? How's your how's the last month been for you?
Last month's been great, man. I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Nice. And the comments already pointing out you about Carl's cap.
Yeah, boys. Yeah. Can you see me, boys? Can you see me?
All right. Okay, we're gonna get straight into it today because Tony Khan this week has had quite a few interviews, and he's basically talked about the AEW restart and what they're planning to do. Now, of course, Forbes did an in-depth article on Tony Khan this week praising him, but the article also revealed that AEW are still currently in the quote-unquote red zone because of the fact that they invested upwards of 10 million into a video game. And yes, it did not go down well that at all on the internet. But basically, people have worked out for them to earn that money back, they're going to have to sell a lot of copies, nearly as many as 2K20 sold. Now, here's the question to you guys. Are either of you gamers?
No, man.
Not really. I mean, I'll buy like WWE video games, but like that's more just because I've always done it.
Yeah. My question is, when they're on the shelves, will people know the name WWE and they also know the name 2K? Will they really, be that drawn to an AEW video game? I guess if it does well and, gets good reviews, it might. Because that is often how the video game industry works compared to TV, for example. Stuff that, it doesn't usually go unrecognized with things such as IGN nowadays. But, we'll have to wait and see if that is a good investment. But if it wasn't for the video game, they would have already been profitable. So, of course, this company, it's not a big surprise. No big company in wrestling nowadays can start as a big company without losing a crap ton of money and having a crap ton of money to spend and lose. And that's what Tony Khan had, and that's what Tony Khan has done here. He's, of course, he's going to lose money. He's lost a lot of money, but hopefully, he'll earn it back. And it shows that they are serious. It shows that they are very serious. They're here for the long run. They're serious about the video game. Because, 8 figures is a lot to put into a video game, right? Upwards of 10 million. As far as we know, that could be 90 million. I highly doubt it. But it could be, right? Anywhere up to 99 million, it could essentially be. But after this, he then did several other interviews, including one with PW Insider. So he sat down with Mike Johnson, a PW Insider, to talk about the future of tapings. And he said this: "It's going to be different formats going forward. It's a great question you're asking. I really appreciate it, and I'll give you some scoops. I'll break the news with Rampage. There's going to be some weeks where Rampage is live, and there will be weeks where we plan to tape Rampage after Dynamite, including at Arthur Ashe Stadium, where we'll be filming after. We will do Dynamite live, and we'll also film Rampage. And in some of the markets where we have these amazing crowds, I think that's okay." And what Tony Khan's essentially saying here is, in, crowds which are very hot crowds that are very invested into the product, they don't mind, sitting through 4 hours of wrestling. But do you think that is the case, or do you think that, nobody can sit through 4 hours? What do you think, Kota?
As somebody who's been to WrestleMania, especially WrestleMania 28, which was, I believe I sat there for much longer than I did for WrestleMania 36 or 37, whichever one just passed. I think it was 37. It gets exhausting after a while. It really does. Even if you love, like, I love wrestling about as much as the next person, but it gets exhausting. So I don't know how his theory will stand up there. I hope the crowd stays great, but after I'd say 3 hours and 30 minutes, it starts to get a little tiring. It's like AEW pay-per-views and old WWE ones. After they reach a certain amount, the crowd would die down a little bit, especially for WWE. So, uh, in theory, it's a good idea. I hope that it's good, but yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that, Carl? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you reckon 4 hours is a decent amount of time to sit there for?
Nah, absolutely disagree. 4 hours is far too long for any show, not just a wrestling show. Like, because there's only so much energy levels you can give, and like after the first 2 hours, you're giving so much energy to a wrestling show, shouting and screaming. You can't scream and shout for 4 hours. You just drain yourself. And I noticed AEW's biggest thing is their pay-per-views are always too long since they first started, and kind of ruins it for me, to be honest. Because the main events aren't as good.
Yeah, I noticed. I noted that with the early pay-per-views a lot since I've gotten used to it a bit more, I guess. But NXT takeovers, we'll get on to this week's NXT takeover in a little bit. But NXT takeovers had the perfect formula, right? 5 or 6 matches, 2.5, 3 hours. I used to before the pandemic, and actually, I think the last one before the pandemic was shorter as well. But I actually think 3 hours, 6 matches is perfect, right? Or even, if it's done in the right way, 3 hours, 5 matches. And I thought they had that that formula perfectly done, and I thought AEW would follow in it, to be honest, once they had the TV show running. But no, they haven't. They've stacked pay-per-views every time with a lot of the time matches which just aren't good enough to be on there as well. So I do completely agree with you there. But Tony Khan then goes on to note here, we can take advantage of it and give them Dynamite and Rampage at the same time. There's also going to be times where we're going to do a lot of live Rampages. And we're going to have a live debut. We're going to do some great live episodes. The go-home show for All Out will be live at the Sears Center. And we'll also have the live for the go-home show in St. Louis. Now, again, that's quite important to note there, that they are also, in smaller markets. So probably, crowds aren't quite invested as much. They are going to be doing Rampage separately, taping it in another arena. Now, Tony Khan does go on to note that what they're going to do with Dark now is they're no longer going to tape it before Dynamite or after Dynamite like they used to. Because did you go to any of the early AEW pay-per-view, not pay-per-views, weekly shows, Kota?
I did, and I saw Dark taped, and I saw Joey Janela beat Ray Phoenix, and the crowd was not happy about that.
Oh, yeah, I can't imagine they would be. Was it taped a bit before and a bit after? Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, it was. There was 2 matches before and 3 matches after.
Oh, okay. So it's now going to be very different. So now before Dynamite, Dark Elevation is going to be taken, and that will just be before Dynamite. And Dark Elevation is essentially going to be the way it's going to work from now on, right? You have Dynamite and I can't get up there. Dynamite and Rampage at the same level, right? Then the next tier down is Dark Elevation. Then the next tier down, all the way down here, you have AW Dark, right? So Elevation is going to be taped before Dynamite, to basically where Dark used to be taped. Rampage, like we said, sometimes will be after, sometimes won't be at all. But the interesting thing is, AEW Dark will now be done in tapings, and they will be done in a separate venue, a venue specially made for Dark, which AEW have quote-unquote secured, which is an interesting way to put it. It does sound as if they now own the venue, but the rumor going around is it's essentially like Full Sail. And that's, and Tony Khan goes on to note here, there'll be some advantages to doing it like this, as we'll be able to give it 100% attention and not having to think about Dynamite, Rampage, and Elevation at the same time, right? So hopefully, they can improve the quality of Dark, as, anyone who's watched it throughout the pandemic, it's like 3 hours long, and it's just squash matches. I mean, do you have any hopes for this, Kota? Or do you think it's just going to be, an empty crowd type thing again in the Nightmare Factory or something?
I mean, this just sounds like a lot. It sounds like AEW is trying to put out just as much content as WWE. Like they're really trying to compete with them, and it just doesn't sound that interesting or appetizing. I'd say the idea of trying to improve Dark, definitely I'm down for. I don't. It can't get any worse than it is right now. So if they're trying to improve it, go ahead, and I'm sure that there will be improvements as long as there's not 3-minute squash matches every single match.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, right, the reason why they're making so much content, right, is simply because they want to stack up the content now. Well, a couple of reasons, right? The first one is they want to stack up the content, right? So when they have, if they make their own streaming network, or more likely now, potentially, sell their content to HBO Max or whatever, HBO Now, HBO Max, something or other. That's why they want to build, a really good tape library, and they want to do it now. Second reason is they want to develop more stars, but the taping schedule is the main reason. And backstage in AEW, Dark and Dark Elevation are loved, but I don't actually know how many people watch it. I do know how many people watch it on YouTube, and it's actually a lot. I think it's like 100,000 people watch it a week, but that doesn't mean they sit through the entire thing. And it also, it's free on YouTube. But yeah, it's going forward for AEW. I think that, it could work. What do you think, Carl?
I think there's too much content as well. I think it's happening too quickly, and I don't think they need Elevation, Dark, Dynamite, and Rampage. I think that's just overkill, because I know you made a good point there where they probably make all these shows to develop stars and stuff. But if you have so much content on every week, not everybody's going to see all the shows. So it's not really. I understand it gives people more TV time and more exposure and stuff, but I think you can turn a lot of people away by giving overkill as well.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree there. Like, I'm a big fan of Dynamite most weeks. I haven't actually been too much recently, but I did enjoy this past week's episode a bit. But, now they're expanding their roster and stuff. I mean, it kind of feels like, actually, I don't think we've spoken about this. We did last week, but we'll talk about it again now, right? AEW, of course, expanding their roster massively, right? And that does mean that these shows have, top talent on. But Andrade recently signed with AEW. Aleister Black is apparently the deal's nearly complete with him signing with AEW, according to Dave Meltzer. And finally, according to Mark Henry this week, both Braun and AEW are interested in bringing Braun to to AEW. And this is something which surprised a lot of people, considering he's not very well liked backstage in AEW. I'll tell you that right now, among talent. As a lot of his comments in the past about independent wrestling have not gone down too well, understandably so. But with this much star power and all the stars they're making, and the fact that I've spoken about this before, right? But the next 3 AEW champions are going to be Hangman Page, MJF, and Jungle Boy, right? So, and that's like a year or so. I don't know how long Page's reign's actually going to be. I think that might be shorter. But that's who the planned next 3 champions are. So where into that can you fit Andrade, then Braun, then Aleister Black, who would all, want title runs, and then probably Jon Moxley will want another title run at some point, and then so will Kenny Omega. Then MJF needs another one. Suddenly you just have too many top stars straight off the bat. What do you think, Kota?
Brand split. That's the only thing. But do not put the TNT title as the main title on another show. I think that they need to, if they're going to have this many stars, and they need to use one of those other 3 shows, Rampage, Elevation, Dark. They need to use one of them as a true another show, because that's how you're going to get more viewers. You're not going to get more viewers for another show just like Dark or Elevation. If you have separate wrestlers on separate shows, that show is going to get more viewers because people are going to be interested in certain wrestlers.
Do you know what, Kurt? I'm actually going to disagree with you there and bring it back to what me and Carl were talking about last week about, the way to expand, well, historically, the way to, expand your wrestling brand, or, get into the mainstream more with wrestling, is to have, a certain amount of wrestlers, which a lot of people know. Now, Carl, I know you said last week that, on Raw you might see Ricochet for 10 minutes a week. But then if you see him for 10 minutes on SmackDown, you see him for 20 minutes. So then he's more familiar with the casual fan. And AEW currently building a lot of their characters, right? So if they have them on separate brands and you don't see, the top guys on, a lot every week, or you see too many top guys every week, it'll confuse the casual fan. It'll make them, make it seem too complicated to get invested into, and then they'll just switch it off. And I truly think that that's the issue WWE have had in recent times. And I believe that's why WWE should end the brands. But even though, as a, hardcore wrestling fan, I personally prefer the brand split to stay. From a business perspective, I think it should stop. What's your thoughts on this, Carl?
I don't know if I think the AEW is becoming what I didn't want them to be, and that's just getting every WWE release talent. Like literally every time a big star's got released, they've taken them, and that's not really why I like the AEW in the first place. But I suppose that's a different topic. But I think they're falling into WCW's trap where they have their own stars there, but they're by getting the Andrades, the Blacks, and Braun, and they're all great talent. But I think AEW needs to focus on their own plans because, as you said, MGF, Jungle Boy, and Page are next 3 champions. And as you discussed last week, Andrade is on probably the most money in AEW, so we cannot give him the titles. That's obviously a spanner thrown into the works of the long-term plans to have going. So I think they're worrying about the now in terms of in-ring and not about the future, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree there. And I don't know. Here's the issue that with AEW, right? If you were a wrestling company, how could any wrestling company, turn down Andrade and Aleister Black, right? There's no room for them on the roster, but how do you turn them down? Especially, even though I think potentially Andrade might be the better wrestler, so I truly believe he's potentially the best in the world right now. Aleister Black, particularly him, based on his creativity. Like if you showed his Twitch streams, right, when he's talking about the character ideas, his attention to detail is it's ridiculous. I'm just there, I'm in awe almost when he's explaining stuff. So, he could be, a top. He could really help AEW, be a big character for them. But then you have other people, other stars, such as, I don't know, who have they brought in who's not made much of a difference? I know obviously Matt Cardona, but that didn't last very long. Anyone else?
Sean Spears.
Perfect example, yeah. And I mean, to be fair, that was in the early days, I guess. But we're not going to be too far away, I think, from the point now where AEW may have to make some releases. And not necessarily that they need to financially, but that also might be another thing. But I think that some talent, the likes of potentially Miro, going forward, might want to, leave the company if, they don't feel like they're getting what they deserve. Because now, we just discussed that the next 3 champions, Jungle Boy, in order, Hangman Page, MJF, and Jungle Boy, that's the current plan. After that, okay, Andrade, then okay, Aleister Black, and John Moxley wants another reign. We're now 3 years down, and Miro said when he signed with AEW that he only signed because he wants to be world champion, and he'd be annoyed if he isn't. And that's 3 years down the line, he still isn't. And now the likes of Kenny Omega might want another title reign. Maybe Cody's turned heel by this point and is now coming for the world title. They have a lot of top guys. What can you do with them? Some people, though, have been speculating this week that Kenny Omega might be leaving AEW in the future. Not near future, but relatively near future. And this came about as Kenny Omega admitted last week that he's beginning to feel the effects of wrestling and he's not sure if he wants to do it anymore because of the amount he's been working as of late. And when he's not the champion, maybe his opinion will change on that. Maybe he needs to go to Japan for a change of scenery. But that's not great when your champion's coming out and saying that at all. Do you think maybe it is time for Omega to hang up the boots this early, Kota?
You know what? I don't think that he's going to hang up the boots anytime soon, especially considering that Cody's not going to be wrestling that much longer. I definitely see. I mean, Kenny's not young. I believe he's 37. He could be 38. So I don't think that Kenny's going to go another 10, 15 years. But for him to hang up the boots like within the next 2 years is kind of unrealistic, especially whenever AEW is still just in its beginning stages.
Yeah, I pretty much do agree. Bang on there. I mean, I forgot about that, what you mentioned about Cody hanging up the boots soon. If he does commit to that and hangs up, I think it's 2 years' time. If he does that, okay, that's 1 star less. And that is a big one as well. And Cody, after the QT feud, I'm not sure what you do with him because he, of course, buried himself with that stipulation a year ago. I mean, the Miro feud is the only thing which could be, I guess, next for him. But I don't know. If you were Aleister Black, right, would you sign with AEW, Carl, if they were offering you the most money?
It depends what he's doing it for. He's doing it for money, definitely, because the next best place to get a paycheck. But I know it depends what Aleister Black wants in wrestling. I don't think Aleister Black wants titles for saying be top of the card. I think Aleister Black, I also seen those Twitch streams around about. I think he just wants full creativity, everything to matter, good long matches, and I think as long as he's guaranteed to have his own input and his own stories and his own is allowed to express his creativity, I think he'd be happy enough to sign because he seems like that type of fella that would put his performance over where he is in the card.
I'm going to now reveal my solution, right, to this issue. Well, a potential solution. I think maybe in the New York show, right, in September, because that'd be a good time to do it. They merge, and they're not going to do the same thing, but this is what I think they should do. Merge the AEW and TNT title, right? And essentially, it's a way to get rid of the AEW championship, right? And of course, then my negative one could bring it back in the future, right? When it gets to that point. But then they only have 1 title. They then introduce a pure rules title, a wrestling-based title, like Ring of Honor do. They also then introduce a hardcore title. That way, they no longer... It kills 2 issues with 1. Firstly, they no longer have the same rankings for 2 championships with something that makes no sense. Why are you having 2 world titles which are equal? I don't remotely understand that to this day. Secondly, it also introduces more titles. Now, an alternate thing you could do is actually keep the TNT title too, but add the stipulation that would mean that you have to defend it every single week on Dynamite or Rampage. So one of the shows every single week. But I've said it since the start. The TNT title makes no sense to me. What would you think if that idea did happen, Kota?
So you're saying that the AEW title and the TNT title would combine, and they would become 1 title, or they would just like get rid of it?
It would become 1 title.
Okay, so
they might just add a strip of I don't know, something to the AEW title. I don't know, right? But they might change the design at all. Basically, the idea was literally just to get rid of the TNT title.
Okay, so basically what happened in New Japan earlier this year.
Yeah, basically bang on.
Okay, so you got a lot of people complaining about that from New Japan.
Yes.
I thought it was a terrible idea. And I don't think it's as bad as what happened in New Japan earlier with the IWGP Heavyweight Championship and the Intercontinental Championship. I don't think it's as bad as that was, but I think that it's unnecessary. And if they wanted to, they could just change the name of the TNT title and actually treat it like a mid-card title, like it should be treated. And don't put it in the rankings. If you're going to have it defended most weeks on TV, there doesn't need to be rankings because Evil Uno has not been ranked as a singles competitor in the top 5 ever. I don't even think he's ever had a singles victory on TV for AEW. So I'm pretty sure that it should. I would have it just be considered a mid-card title and just call it a day.
I mean, the issue is that Tony Khan doesn't believe in mid-card titles, and if they are doing the rankings, by the way, kills AEW, I think. Going into the company, I love the idea. Now I'm realizing the issues. But having a mid-card title with the rankings, I don't know, it's a bit confusing to me. But I feel like what I said a minute ago, if they made it so you had to defend it every week on either Dynamite or Rampage, that would make it, a lot more point to the title. And it would have a stipulation to it, so it would make sense instead of just being another title. So I wouldn't be against that at all if they kept it like that. But I think that they should make just the world title be the only men's title, which doesn't have a stipulation behind it. Then they should add another couple of titles, all with stipulations behind them. Just so then, you can have more champions, but it's not like 4 random, singles champions. It's 4 champions in a certain aspect of wrestling. What's your thoughts, Carl?
I like the bit at the end, actually. Champions in certain style of wrestling. That's a good idea because AEW have lots of different styles and they have a few competitors in the styles for Lucha Libre. They have Andrade, Rey Fenix, and the Pentagon, and then more wrestling-based styles to have. I can't think off the top of my head, but they have a few. But I don't know. I think the more belts, I think having 1-2 belts is enough in wrestling because the more belts you have, then they just become props. Where I think the less belts you have, the more prestigious you make them feel. So I think, I don't know, I think the main titles obviously you always keep the AEW title. But I think the TNT title does have its place. Like it's not a prestigious title, but I think they should. Do you remember in TNA years ago, the X Division title was like, if you had it at a certain pay-per-view, then you could give the option to give the belt away for a title shot. If they use the TNT title kind of like if you use the TNT title as kind of a number 1 contender shot. So say if you had the TNT title and you had to defend it every week, and if you got 12 straight wins in a row, you got a title shot, and they actually had a bit of prestige to it as a way to get to the main title.
Yeah, I mean, that's another great idea, like giving a stipulation to it as well. But the rankings is another issue when you have so many stars, right? Considering Braun Strowman now comes in, he won't want to lose much. When he's going to be top of the rankings, you've got to give him, a title match. And then if he loses that, then, he's, 1 down, but he'll carry on winning then, and he'll still be top of the rankings. So you still keep giving him title shots or make him lose, which will then make him unhappy. And it's just a disaster. It's just a recipe for disaster a little bit, I guess. But they brought a hardcore title. Now, I'd be very interested to see how that would work. Or the TNT title, perhaps more, where he has to defend it weekly and that. And over time, he starts to get tired, he starts to get injured. So then when he does lose it, it doesn't hurt him at all. And, he could win it back then. I think that could be a way for them to, have a lot of top talent at once. Now, we're going to get right into the next thing now. I'm going to talk about Raw this week, where Pippa Niven debuted alongside Eva Marie on her return, and she debuted without a name. So Eva Marie essentially came down to the ring, pretended to beat in came Pippa Niven. Pippa Niven squashed Naomi. A lot of people weren't happy about that. And 1, 2, 3, and then Eva grabbed the mic, and your winner, Eva Marie. What? But I heard you like this, Kota. What was your thoughts?
Oh, okay. So I actually thought that this was really good because this got exactly the reaction that Vince McMahon knew it was going to get. Sometimes I think that Vince McMahon's a genius. I mean, listen, sometimes he's not all there, but I do think that sometimes he knows what he's doing, and I think here he knows exactly what he's doing. The women's tag division currently is literally in shambles. They have 3 whole teams, if you count Shayna and Nia as a team. And the 2 other teams that are currently there, the champions and Mandy and Dana, are feuding. So the only thing that you can do to bring relevancy is somebody like Eva Marie, who has the it factor. Besides the fact that last time she was on TV, she was not good at actually wrestling in the ring. She has somebody like Piper with her, who obviously is a very good in-ring worker and can help win the tag titles. And Piper can do all the work, and then Eva can come in and pin either Natalya or Tamina for the tag titles and bring a little bit of relevancy to them. Plus, I think that Eva is just really good at being an on-screen figure because I think that she has the charisma. Even though she's not that good in the ring, I do think that there's definitely a place for her, and I think this is the place for her.
I agree 100% there. Now, I have two issues with this, though. Firstly, well, the first one isn't definite yet, right? But the rumor is that Pippa Niven is going to be called Dowdrup on the main roster, which is honestly worse than even the Retribution names. I don't understand it remotely. Second issue, she was a huge star in NXT UK. Why didn't they just say, oh, she brought her over from the UK, whatever. They just ignored one of their brands completely. Yet when Walter comes over, they, the NXT UK champion. It's not consistent. Like, at least be consistent with it if you're going to do something like that. Do you agree, Carl?
I agree with Kota and I disagree with you. I love this. Oh, this is
Oh,
amazing. And I think this isn't Piper Niven. That's the people's problem. To see her, because she's in NXT, to see this Piper Niven, I feel the character they're giving her is, Eva Marie is a social, like an influencer, and she's influenced Piper Niven. But what's her name? Jump or something, was it?
Dowdrup.
Dowdrup. She influenced her. So this isn't Piper Niven. We never seen her before. This is a different character, a different person. A bit like Alexa Bliss is a completely different person to what she was 3 years ago. It's something similar like that, and you just have to accept that this is a new character, because apparently Lily was always a part of her life type of thing. But I absolutely love this, and I think Eva Marie is obviously, she's so good as well. Like, she's perfect heel role, and having her with a powerhouse is so brilliant. But I think people's perspective are getting too annoyed because they're reading too much into it. It's like, oh, that's Piper Niven for NXT UK. But if you actually see it for what it is I love it.
Here's the issue I have though. It's WWE. I had it with with Alexa Bliss. It was actually done a bit. I don't know what it's like now because I haven't actually seen many of the recent segments because they're so bad. But when they progressed Alexa Bliss into this new character, they did it really well. Like, it wasn't one day she just turned it was, but the Fiend kidnapped her or whatever, right? That's why it wasn't like, suddenly she's a new name and everything that she didn't exist before. Why didn't they just put her on a losing streak on NXT UK or whatever right at the end, Pippa Niven? Then, have her seem really not confident anymore and everything, and have her quit NXT UK. Then come to the US, be this exact same role. Eva Marie saved her life. She's, influenced her or whatever. Like you said, you can do the exact same thing, but at least it doesn't make fans seem like idiots. That's my problem with it.
So as of last Monday, they hadn't decided whether they wanted Piper Niven in that role or not. So they couldn't have really done that long term unless they waited like another month for Eva to debut her.
Yeah. Apparently, it was always Pippa Niven though, but I don't know why, but they were considering Mercedes Martinez as well. But I highly doubt that she'd want to be honest with you. But yeah, that's what it was. They were considering both of them at one point. And I'm guessing the way they were going to do it is, and who knows, they might still do it, but I just don't think that Mercedes Martinez will want to do it. Is that next week, Eva comes out with somebody else and influences them. JQ said, because most Raw fans don't watch NXT UK, it'd be pointless. That while I do agree with that, it's the hardcore wrestling fans for the most part which are actually leaving, stopping watching Raw at the minute. So, and they're the ones who will watch it, or at least know about it. You don't even have to watch NXT UK to know it, really. So I don't know. I don't like it when wrestling fans, are looked at as dumb, right, by WWE. And it happens too often, and it's hard to get your head around a little bit. But, we're going to have to agree to disagree on that, I reckon. But another thing was I have a feeling we might disagree on is NXT Takeover. I'm actually on the wrong thing here, which is great. But NXT Takeover happened this past weekend, and it stood and it under-delivered, in my opinion. I was not a fan of it for the most part. It was fine, nothing wrong with it. But it just wasn't Takeover standard, and it just felt a little bit... I wasn't too overly excited throughout the show. Now, it kicked off a match between Bronson Reed, who teamed up with MSK to take on Legado del Fantasma. And we talked about this last week, Carl. pointless. No reasoning behind it. Why on earth would Bronson Reed ever want to defend his title in a 6-man tag team match? But anyway, he did retain it, thankfully for him. And it was a good match. Fun opener, the crowd dead for it, and it set the tone for the rest of the night. What did you think of the match, Kota?
I thought it was extremely fun match. It was my second favorite match of the night. Definitely the right winners, considering that Bronson's just now getting the title. I think I could see Legado moving up to the main roster during the whatever they want to call it in September that they're doing, where they're switching brands. But I could
Yeah.
definitely see Santos being the big Hispanic star that they've been looking for, along with Damian Priest. But the match itself was very, very good. Super entertaining. Even whenever the heels were in control, it never felt boring for 1 second. And I think this was a perfect opening. I would have liked it to be a little bit longer,
Yeah.
but other than that, I thought it was really good.
I pretty much bang on agree with you there as well. I mean, like you said, it was also short, but no, fans didn't care. I mean, to be fair, the fans didn't care about anything on the show, but they weren't invested in this for a lot of the time. There was a few fun spots. It got the crowd going a little bit, and that was the idea though of this match. The idea, and on paper, if you asked me last week what match would open, I would say this one, right? And that's how it should be. But on paper, a match like that gets the crowd going. It excites them. For whatever reason, maybe the lack of story, the crowd just didn't care. And they didn't care about a lot of this takeover. And it's probably because there was a lack of story throughout this takeover. It was a rushed card. It wasn't a very good card, if we're being honest here. I mean, even this match, right? It opened takeover, got everyone excited. And out of the 5 matches, it should be the one, 6 matches. Oh no, 5 matches. It was one that should have opened. But it's not really a takeover worthy match either. Like, if a year or two ago, you put a takeover match and then you said, okay, I'm going to have a 6-man tag team match for both championships to kick off takeover between, Bronson Reed, MSK, and Legado del Fantasma. It's actually, to be fair, it sounds better than it is now, I'm saying it. But it was not, for me, it wasn't a takeover level opener, if I'm being completely honest. What did you think, Carl?
I thought it was a good match. I thought it was decent. It's very fun. Good spots, creativity. As we said last week, the Bronson Reed pun the title doesn't make sense. But like, why would he do that? But as a match, it was decent. But I don't know. I think NXT is a bit different to us a few years ago, where I think takeovers used to have a set structure where it was always the Undisputed Era tag match would open, and then 3 class matches, then the main event. I just think they're trying a different structure now to make the shows feel a bit different. I didn't think it was like bad. I thought it was too high standard.
Yeah, I just don't. Comparing it to how it was before, I just not been a huge fan of it. But anyway, the opening match was decent. Not one of the best openers of takeovers, but it was decent, and it should have gotten the crowd. You should have gotten the crowd going. It didn't. Xia Li then took on Mercedes Martinez in an all-night match. Both women looked good, but it was quite short, and the crowd literally did not give a single care in the world to this. After the match, Mei Ying, came in through Mercedes Martinez into a barricade in a really great visual, and the crowd went nuts then. But apart from that, they didn't give a single care in the world about this. What do you think, Kota?
This is the least takeover match since like 2016, probably. This match, I don't want to say it sucked, but for takeover to have a below average match is extremely rare. And I thought this was definitely below average. I did not enjoy it. The only good thing I have to say about it is that the right person won. And
Yeah.
I don't even know where you go from here. Like, because your main women's champion is a heel, and Xia Li is a heel, so you can't give her a title shot because she probably deserves it for defeating Mercedes Martinez, who's already had a title shot. It was really messy for me. Not the match itself, just the whole booking and everything. And what happened after, did not
You didn't
enjoy
like
that.
it?
Was not over with me. Definitely not. Was
Oh.
not over with me or my dad. We were both like, "Oh, this is just okay. So this is happening. Cool. Can we get past this already?" That was my reaction.
That's very interesting. And my mouse off. That is a very interesting take there. I understand that too a bit. The main advantage of it was the fact that the crowd loved it, to be honest, and then that made it feel bigger than it was. But again, like you said, it was a below average match for a Takeover. It was very poor. It was probably something a bit worse last year, one of the early Takeovers in the pandemic era, especially in your house last year, which sucked. That was like that. This Takeover was good, but it was just not good for a Takeover. Last year's Takeover in your house was just straight up bad. The presentation was nice, but the matches were worse than the main roster were putting on. I remember at the time Backlash was better than it. But yeah, do you agree with this match, Carl, or did you enjoy it?
And I 100% agree with Kota. It wasn't a Takeover level match. It was just boring, and it was like they were stuck in first gear. And I don't like scary countering lady. Like, it's just stupid.
I mean, yeah, it is. It's going to be interesting there. If I think it could work. I think the gimmick could work, but they're going to have to be very careful how they book it. And like you said, it's not just even this storyline. Everything in NXT, there's everyone you're giving a push to, it's like, well, they can't defeat the champion. The champion is also a heel, or the champion is also a face, or whatever. The booking's just so messed up right now. And it's been the same since it's moved to USC, but now more than ever. And this card was just built so quickly as well, which I think was a main issue with this. So Raquel Gonzalez then I missed one. The next match was the $1 million championship match between LA Knight and Cameron Grimes. And this match, what I expected it to be. I didn't expect it to be an unbelievable ladder match, as the ladder match doesn't really fit either man's style. But for what they could do, for what they did, it was good, and the crowd enjoyed this. Overall, I really did enjoy this specific match. What do you think, Kota?
So this was my favorite match of the night. I was expecting it to suck because, I mean, neither man has really put on a great match since they've been in NXT. But the crowd for me with Cameron Grimes, I can see how much the crowd really gets into him. He's exactly what Pierce just said. Great seeing how over Grimes is with a bigger crowd. He has gotten so over so quickly as a face. And I have said before that I love Cameron Grimes. I love him. But I did not think that he would ever be championship material, mid-card even, but definitely not world title. At this point, I could see him going after a title sooner rather than later. I mean, I think LA Knight needs to go up to the main roster as soon as possible. Opposite brand of Roman. I think that LA Knight could be world champion tomorrow on WWE TV if they wanted him to be. I think he has everything you need. He's a perfect combination of Ted DiBiase, Rick Rude, and The Rock. I think that there's nothing that he can't do. And the only thing that hurts him is his age. He's already 38.
That's a big thing. They're looking for young people now. And with the latest call-ups, they want bigger people who have good characters. Which he fits, to be honest, both of them. But also young, which he does not fit at all. So, to be honest, if I was WWE, I would not even push him for the world title. I wouldn't even put him on the main roster, to be honest, because the dude he's world title material. And I feel somewhere with like NXT, even though I know he's not as good in the ring as some, even though I'm not, like, people underrate him in the ring. He's had so many great matches over the years. But I don't think they were pushing, you have a few people who you could push to be top stars, and I don't think pushing you at this point the right decision for them. But do you know who I would put up to the main roster, and I would push to the moon? Cameron Grimes. I'd actually wait a little bit longer. I'd wait, definitely for crowds to be fully back. But that's next month as it is. But you got to be careful of how you book him. But if you book him like a cheeky baby face like he's been recently, you can't help but like him. But he's a little bit heelish. You book him like that, He's singles title material written. He has singles title material written all over him. The only and potential world title material with something like the Money in the Bank briefcase, right? Not clean, but a Money in the Bank briefcase. I think he's only 27 years old. The sky's the limit for this guy. He's got super over. The only thing that's going to hurt him on the main roster is his accent, but because he's a type comedy type thing, maybe Vince might get over that. Because if you don't know, Vince hates those types of accents. But Aaron, as said here, the thing is about LA Knight is that his style is a lot less risky, so he's got another years left in him. Good point. Good point there. I'm so. Cameron Grimes. You could say the same thing about him, and he's got what then? Another 22 years left in him. But I don't know. What do you think, Karl?
Oh, first of all, the match was fantastic. The match was class. I think the NXT takeovers new things is people jumping off the scaffolding. I think they've done that every takeover now. But no, this match is unbelievable. And then the thing, most ladder matches don't really. I didn't think this ladder match suited the competitors in it. For instance, the ladder match in the last takeover wasn't great because either men wasn't used to it, and I thought we might get a similar feel here. But I think both men they didn't change their style for the ladder match. They had a match involving a ladder, which is always the best kind of ladder matches. And at the LA Knight, the both men came out looking like stars in this match. And Cameron Grimes, man, every time I watch him in company, same thing in Impact and PWG. I was like, you first see him like a mid card, but then by the end of it, even PWG, he ended up winning the Battle of Super Juniors. He made it very high in Impact as well. He just has a way of getting to the top and knowing what to do to get there, and his whole character just being such a sympathetic to being an annoying twat a year ago. Now with me actually giving him sympathy, it's just credit to him, absolutely credit to him. And I think the whole him siding with Ted DiBiase now on NXT and stuff really gives him that another fighting spirit. Or look, he respects the legends and stuff, so he has values and stuff, which I think he to the moon, as you said.
Yeah, and I mean, I've given NXT a lot of stick for the booking recently, but this storyline's been done very, very well. Basically perfectly. They've managed to get him over as a face, get LA Knight over as a heel, and also bring a $1 million title back into it. Now, my question for you is, let me quickly make my point first. So the issue on NXT is Karrion Kross is the main champion. Mid-card champion, Bronson Reed. So Bronson Reed's a babyface. Maybe he'll lose it soon, who knows. But he's not going to beat Karrion Kross. And as far as NXT goes, I think the title which he should be going after is the world title. Right? I think he's that level of over. But I think it's time to instead, if he's not going to do either, I think it's time to call him up in September, when, like you said, when the draft happens. Do you guys agree, or do you think that it's far too early? What do you think?
For Kross, is it?
No, Grimes. Sorry, Grimes.
I know it's far too early for Grimes. He's 27, as you said. He could have a good solid 3 year story to him building up to get to the world title before that. I think because at such a young age, you think about if he's 27 and he's 30 the main roster, that's another 10 years in the main roster. I think with the young guys, you should more take your time with them and build them up, because he's not established yet, really. You know what I mean? He's a great character, but he's not established yet. I think you should use NXT was made for people like Cameron Grimes who can establish themselves and really truly find themselves. Because I think he hasn't been over. How long has he been in NXT? 3 years, and he's only starting to get over now. So I think give him time to progress his character.
Yeah, here's the ones I've noticed though with call-ups. When the character's already very, very progressed, right, and they then do the call-up, it never seems to work, because they always like to change them a little bit on the main roster anyway, which is why I think that now he's very young. Like you said, he'll have 10 years plus on the main roster. Now, while that could seem like a negative, I see it as a positive in his case, because they need stars currently. They need top stars they need top stars who are recognizable for a long time, right? They don't just need top stars who are top stars, for the sake of it. They need young people who, a kid will see on a poster and be like, oh yeah, I know. This is a better example. A 15-year-old boy who hasn't watched wrestling for 3 years will go past, a poster and go, oh, there's Cameron Grimes. I know who he is. And he's still on the front of the poster. That's what they need. And with people like John Cena, who they still put on the posters, he's getting on a bit now. Great talent, but we need a new John Cena, essentially. And obviously Cameron Grimes is not going to be that role. But he could be, a consistent main event star. That's my thinking behind it. But at the same time, it is very early. Now, I'm going to quickly move on to the women's match now. Raquel Gonzalez defeated Dakota Kai. Great. I made that same mistake on my post of the graphic. I said, I did the exact same thing. Raquel Gonzalez defeats Ember Moon. And this was fun. This was fine. Nothing special. There's been a lot worse NXT Women's Championship matches on the Women's Title Great. NXT Women's Championship matches on an NXT card before, and there will be again. Just again, the women's title is not getting the time it deserves. But overall, I thought for what this was, it was decent. What did you think, Kota?
Honestly, I have nothing special to say about the match. There's nothing memorable that happened for me. It was just a defense, and I do think that Raquel has been a pretty decent champion, but she's lacking something, and I'm not really sure what that is. It may be natural charisma that I just don't think that she has. It just doesn't allow her to make her feel like a big deal to me. Like, I don't feel like she's on the same level as some of the other women in NXT.
She definitely doesn't have natural charisma, unfortunately. Other people, I guess, have become stars don't have natural charisma, I guess. I mean, Finn Balor, to be honest, until he got to NXT again, for the second time around, he never had natural charisma. Second time around in NXT, he did. With that Prince gimmick. But he went quite far on the main roster as a face where he didn't really have charisma, so who knows? There's a market as long as you're with fans. Whether or not she is remains to be seen. I still found it funny that Val, who, in his NXT reviews, has been talking about how great she is for months and months, came on this podcast last week and started shitting all over her. I found that funny, but what did you think of the match, Carl?
I think Kota described it perfectly there. Like, I remember enjoying it, but I can't tell you a thing that happened in it. So there's just no big spots and stuff. But I think it was a solid match. I think interesting what Karl is missing. I think she's just missing something to sink her teeth into, because she hasn't really had, since she won the title, what has she done really? She hasn't had a chance to have a good feud to establish her character. She's just been beating people up, and her and Dakota Kai are going after the NXT titles again because they don't have anything. So I don't know, I think they need to split up Dakota Kai and Raquel and have a feud between those ladies for a month, and then you can really establish the characters.
Yeah, but so they're building up, like, from what I've seen, right, I might be wrong, they're building up this feud as Dakota Kai being the heel in it. Is that right?
No, I wouldn't say that for sure.
No one said that either. No, Raquel's definitely, she's obviously the muscle of the team, but that's always going to happen because of the physique on her. Like, I don't know, Dakota's not really acting any different than she has been over the last year, so it's hard to tell really.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I think that Raquel's going to be heel with Tegan and Dakota being together.
That would get her over. That would get her over if they pair her with Tegan. But yeah, from what I've seen, it's like Dakota standing in the back when Raquel's having a photo, she'd been all annoyed. So the way I would think it was going to be that way around, and Dakota being the heel in this feud, that would be awful. But if Raquel's the face, Dakota fixes things up with Tegan, that could be a hell of a feud. Now, I'm going to move on to the main event, right? Really quickly. The main event, Karrion Kross defeated Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, and Pete Dunne. And now this match was great. It had a lot of great stuff going on in it. Really fun. You couldn't take your eyes off it. So much action, unique stuff, tons of throwbacks actually to previous matches and stuff like that. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the clip on Instagram of Johnny Gargano, the spot he did with Cole in the ring. It was the exact same as what they did, like a couple of years back at Takeover. It was like spot perfect as well. Even the camera angles, it must have been planned. It was such a little thing. I love that. But unfortunately, that's all this match was. Great moves, great chemistry. There wasn't a story to it. It was obvious for the most part. As soon as Karrion Kross went out, got taken out outside the ring, it was obvious he was going to win. He comes in, beats everyone, makes them look a bit shit, wins. Yeah, unfortunately now everybody's slightly, I don't know, they're not buried at all, but no one is near the level he was. Yes, sorry. He didn't just, luckily beat someone, he took them all out, then won. And they built this up as the 4 biggest stars in NXT are taking on Karrion Kross. Well, great. Now the 4 big stars in NXT all are on a significant level below him. So who's going to take the title off him? It's. I don't know why they did this match at all. It was as if they wanted a way to take the title off him, and then they didn't take the title off him. What can I say? Fun match to watch, but storyline-wise, it makes no sense. What do you think, Kota?
So I did not thoroughly enjoy this match. At times, it was a bit too spot fest for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
And wrong winner. So that's simple. You had an easy shot to go with Adam Cole and then to bring Karrion up in a couple months. And you could have done Adam Cole, and eventually Kyle could have taken the title off Adam Cole. It was that simple, but they ended up, I don't know if they're going to do maybe a triple threat with Adam, Kyle, and Karrion maybe, and just not include Pete Dunne and Johnny Gargano. But
I don't even want to see that now.
The way that they're going, it's just strange. I have no idea what they're going to do now because I just thought it was so cut and dry. Like, everybody was saying the Cross was going to win, and I was like, that makes no sense. Why would Cross win? And then Cross won.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen now, right? Next takeover, Karrion Kross is going to face, I don't know, Bronson Reed or someone else. Right? No offense to anyone else, right? Bronson Reed's great, for example, but he's going to face someone who's, not quite world title ready yet, and he's going to be 4th and 5th one. That's going to be Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole. Great. So now, once again, Karrion Kross isn't in the main event with the World Championship, and Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole are main evented. Why didn't they just give the title to Adam Cole? It makes no sense at all. Karrion Kross, fantastic competitor, but he's perfect for the main roster. Maybe not for NXT. What were your thoughts, Carl?
I agree and disagree with both is in a way. I agree this is the perfect way to take the title off Cross without having him looking strong going to the main roster. But I actually think this match was very good and I enjoyed the finish because the finish was Kyle O'Reilly had Adam Cole in a heel hook and Adam Cole was going to tap and then Cross got Kyle from nowhere and choked him out. I really thought that was a great finish and Kyle made Adam Cole tap out. If Cross didn't do it. So I think they're building up Cross versus Cole or Cross versus Kyle O'Reilly, and Kyle O'Reilly's going to take the belt off him. And then I think Adam Cole is just going to keep fuming Adam Cole because Kyle O'Reilly technically had him beat twice, and I believe they have a match at Backlash. So if not Backlash, Great American Bash, and if he beats him again, I think Cole's just going to maybe to have a title. O'Reilly has a title match across, and then Cole takes out O'Reilly, and then it's Cross. He beats him that way, but I think this was definitely the best way to make him strong. But I can see what they were trying to do with the finish, but I don't think it executed quite as well as they hoped it would.
Here's the thing: if Cross didn't take out every single person in that match and made them look really weak, then I would agree with you. But the fact is, he made everyone look weak. Kyle O'Reilly, once again, did have Adam Cole beat, which is going to frustrate Adam Cole. I like that part. But then in came Karrion Kross, and nothing again. Karrion Kross tapped out. It was Kyle O'Reilly tapped out, yeah. And it was just, well, what are you going to do from you? I mean, I don't think Carl's deserved the title shot. He looked rubbish against Karrion Kross. All four of these men looked rubbish when they won the round Karrion Kross. I don't remotely get it. It's frustrating me a lot here, and I've gone on a bit of a rant about it, but I am not happy with this booking whatsoever, because I praised NXT for years about their booking, and then in they come since they moved to USA, and it's just been a mess. This show was a mess. That's a bit harsh. It wasn't a mess, but...
No.
It was weak for a takeover.
Problem with NXT. I think that's the problem with NXT now. Like, I think the NXT was so good years ago because they had a format where people be here for a year, go up for a year, here for a year, go up for a year. And because they're keeping all these big stars now, they're not sure how to book them long term. They're good at like individual stories and switching it from story to story, but they're not good at keeping people and having them feel fresh for many years. It's one of their biggest downfalls since the thing.
The only guy they've been booking well is Ciampa. Like Ciampa,
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I figured out his full year plan. So I'm pretty sure that it's going to lead to Team Ciampa versus Imperium in War Games. So I think that with Thatcher joining Imperium, so I think that that would be the. But other than Ciampa, I think that their booking sucks in general.
Yeah.
Is there? I was about to say I don't know how I feel anymore about Triple H taking over the booking if that does happen on the main roster. But is there a single top booker in wrestling who's booked people who've lost the championships well? I mean, it's too early to say definitely about Tony Khan, right? But he's not, done it fantastically, I guess. So far, Moxley he has, but it's been very short. And now that the fact that he's gone on maternity leave, Moxley, that saved him a little bit. But apart from that, it's too early to know about Tony Khan yet. Gado definitely isn't. Impact. Oh.
How many? Do you ever see his stuff, man? No.
I disagree with that one, but I have no idea. I mean, to be honest, maybe Jim Cornette, to be honest, but yeah, he did it well, but God knows. It's a mess. NXT messed up their booking. I was going to get into Hell in a Cell, but I'm going to be honest here. We don't really have time, but also I don't think anybody cares about Hell in a Cell. We spoke about it earlier. We spoke about this earlier. I didn't even know Hell in a Cell was this weekend, right? That's how little it's been built up. I'll quickly run through the card right now, just to make everyone happy. Bobby Lashley is defending his WWE Championship against Drew McIntyre inside Hell in a Cell in a last chance match. Rhea Ripley is taking on Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Championship. Bianca Belair is taking on Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Roman Reigns is taking on Rey Mysterio in a Hell in a Cell match. And Alexa Bliss is facing Shayna Baszler. This card actually does look better than Takeover. But apart from the Alexa Bliss Shayna Baszler match. But Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio, I'm sure is going to be a good match. Obviously, who the winner is going to be, but I think that'll be entertaining. Bianca Belair versus Bayley. That's going to be decent. Both women are really good there. Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. I think they should have hit for a bigger event, essentially. SummerSlam even built it more. But no, they're doing it now. And it's basically, the feud's almost still a triple threat of Oscar as well. It's weird. And Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. They've not built to it that well, right? But on paper, having a last chance match inside Hell in a Cell, but MVP's got involved before and stuff. It's a really good, idea. But they didn't build it like that. They, threw it together, and only in the last couple of weeks they've tried to build it like that. But what's your thoughts on Hell in a Cell in general, Coach? Are you excited for it?
I'm excited, hoping that Rey Mysterio gets the main event, his first ever pay-per-view with both Raw and SmackDown. He's also never been in the Hell in a Cell, so that'll be fun. But the card's all right, I guess. I have low expectations. Nikki Cross should have been a women's champion a couple of days, but I mean that's true. But hey, raw logic. So the pay-per-view, I'm sure it might be the first ever pay-per-view with more women's matches than men's matches. Could be wrong there, but it seems like a possible realistic fact.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, you're right. I'm 99% sure you are right. Yeah, that's very interesting. And apart from Shayna Baszler versus Alexa Bliss, it is a good card. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. Are you? How are you feeling about the show, Carl? Are you excited for it, or just it's happening?
A bit of both. it don't make you excited for it, but this, as we know, since the pandemic, really, yeah, WWE's always, their main roster shows are always brilliant. Like their
Yes.
pay-per-views have been class. So, and I'm really looking forward to Rhea and Roman. I think they actually built that feud very, very well. And
Yeah, I
as
know.
always, Roman Reigns is amazing. Like,
We've said this, and you haven't been on actually since Carl made the big discovery about this. But SmackDown's just as bad as Raw, really. The only difference is one storyline they are fucking to perfection for the most part, and that is the Roman Reigns storyline. And once again, they've done it great here. And it's the fact that's carrying SmackDown, done really well. And if only they put that much effort into every other feud, WWE would be unbeatable. But sadly, they don't. Any upsets, you guys, or do you think it's just? Do you think any titles are going to change hands?
maybe Drew, but I don't want that to happen.
Flipping heck.
I don't think
He's
any
going to
of
get
them
booed
will
out the
change
building. Or when the cart's come back.
I don't
I
see
know the
any
fact
of
that
them.
it's his last chance. The fact it's his last chance, though, it makes me think. Because what are they gonna? Unless they have a big match planned for Bobby, I don't see anything happening really for Bobby at SummerSlam. Because if this is Drew's last match and he wins, who's Bobby gonna face at SummerSlam?
Should be
Oh
Lesnar.
man,
It's not going
yeah,
to be Lesnar apparently, but that's what it should be.
yeah, that's true.
And I don't actually know if I believe the report saying it's not Lesnar. Mind that he's they're trying to get him a return for SummerSlam. So who's he going to face? Because Cena versus Roman's in place. Who are they going to have him face? But what were you going to say, Kota?
No, I was gonna say if they really think that they can get Lesnar, then that match doesn't need to be for the title. And McIntyre can have his own world title match against like Jinder or somebody like. Sorry, that was my bias. Against AJ Styles or somebody like that.
Yeah, but he's going
For
to
Jinder.
use. It's the typical WWE main roster crowd where Lashley's quite over. Drew, if a face holds the title for too long, they start to get booed. And I think if Drew takes the title back, he's going to be booed out of the building. When the crowd return next month. So that's why I definitely have Lashley retain. And I feel like the Lesnar match with the title, Lashley versus Lesnar, I feel like I'm fine with that. I think it'd be, a big field title match. Lesnar can't win because, or maybe he could win. If he's going to win, he's got to show up more because Raw cannot lose any more ratings than it's losing now. That's all I'm saying. Right. Anyway, guys, this podcast has turned into me just going on a rant about everything.
Do you even like wrestling, Ben? Do you?
I don't even know anymore with WWE. No. Apparently, big things are coming according to Andrew Zarian of the Men Wrestling Podcast. When crowds return, I hope he's right because God knows WWE kind of need it right now. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening to this week's podcast. If you like it, please leave a thumbs up and leave a comment below telling us you like it. If you have any feedback, comment it below as well. We do look at all the comments. Right. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.